Welcome, everyone, to episode 54 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I'm your host, drinking martinis and wearing JCPenney suits from 1964, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, someone who doesn't sweat much for a fat guy, Kyle Hoagland.
I knew it. That's what you were going to do. For those out there who have an hour commute and you're like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and pop on an episode of the Thundercraps podcast. Kaiser and I haven't talked too much as far as, what exactly we're going to talk about. We have like a basic rundown, but you may want to set the speed to 1/2 if you want to get an hour out of this one.
If you want to get an hour out of this episode, if you want to get an hour out of Thunder 54, March 11th, 1999, good luck. Assuming you watch Thunder 53, because a lot of it repeats. And man, we're in for quite an episode here. Of course, Kyle, it is pre-taped from Winston-Salem. We are 3 days from Uncensored, so anything can happen at Uncensored.
Ric Flair once wore a dress. He might do it again.
And because anything can happen at Uncensored, and we are 3 days away. This is the go-home show. You've got Ric Flair. You've got Hollywood Hogan, world title in a cage match. You've got a triangle match with three hardcore experts. You've got Barry Windham and Kurt Hennig versus Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit with a lumberjack strap match. You got all these hot, heated feuds. So, this being the go-home show, I can't expect anything less than just hot storylines that just is going to make me want to immediately go to my cable provider and subscribe for this Sunday's episode, right?
Or, you could have just watched Thunder last week and Nitro this week, and you really didn't have to watch Thunder at all. That was the other option. That
is another option. Of course, we do open the show up on a pre-taped. We got Bobby, Tony, and Mike Tenay sitting at the booth. They're trying to pretend like it's a live show. Bobby Heenan took off his orange button-up and put on a gray vest over that blue shirt. He was not fooling me, Bobby. I know you just changed. They all had one other shirt they threw on real quick. As they open up, they discuss, of course, Hogan and Flair. And Flair's in the main event. And it basically saying that, whoever loses this match, their career, their legacy, everything could be over. So, at Uncensored, really anything can happen.
Ric Flair once wore a dress.
We also find out that Flair is going to be in the main event. So,
when I heard about that, I was like, cool. The guy who's the main event of the pay-per-view is going to be the main event here. I'm like, that's awesome. That's actually something you don't see much.
That's a great way to take us on our go-home show. You got Ric Flair, who is battling for the world title, his career, his control of WCW. He's in a steel cage match Sunday night at Uncensored.
But first, he's got to go through. I would assume probably a big challenge. Probably someone from the Wolfpack.
Absolutely.
Hogan's going to put something in front of him to soften him up in order for him to pick up the pieces come Sunday, right?
That's right. That's what we hear. Ric Flair main event, and he is wrestling Disco Inferno.
In their defense, that is a Wolfpack member.
That he is a Wolfpack member. But, man, if you would have seen my smile when I heard Ric Flair in the main event in Winston-Salem on Thunder, I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then they immediately deflated everything with Disco Inferno. Nothing against Disco Inferno either, but this is not the match I was looking forward to.
I understand. Look, I'm a big Disco Inferno mark, but it's kind of like Disco Inferno being in the Wolfpack is like Vincent being, in charge of the white and black. It's like in name only.
Yes, absolutely. That said, we move to our opening bout. After finding out Disco Inferno is in the main event tonight, we open up with Dave Taylor. So we got Dave Taylor out here. He's going to be wrestling Raven, who's accompanied to the ring with his sister Chastity, which is still a weird dynamic to me, but whatever. Raven, of course, is going to get on the microphone first. He's going to discuss his triangle match. And I kind of laughed at when he said, the old guys always tell me to get a good buy rate, I got to put over my opponents. And, of course, that's when he says, Bam Bam, you got some nice tattoos, and Hack, you don't sweat much for a fat guy.
Yeah, I liked it, but at the same time, I feel like Raven didn't need the mic. This wasn't like a great promo of his or...
Oh, by no means, no. I thought that little part was funny, but it wasn't a good promo by any means.
Right.
Of course, Heenan's going to let us know that at Uncensored, anything can happen.
Flair once wore a dress.
As for this match, not much does happen, but Raven is going to get a 10-count punch in the corner, which I tell you what, that Winston-Salem crowd, they love themselves a 10-punch, didn't they?
Everybody should. Like, if there's something wrong with you if you don't appreciate with how many dick teases there have been as far as 10-count punches that we've seen, where they either end at 9 and then somebody gets out of it, or like 8 and they get out of it, or just someone just punches for 6 or 7 times and then just jumps down for no reason whatsoever. It's just appreciative that you go from pillar to post on those 10-count punches.
Definitely. That said, we get an even flow out of nowhere. Raven is then going to straddle Dave Taylor awkwardly for the 3 count. I gave this match a star and 3/4. I probably would have given it 2, maybe. But Dave Taylor immediately no-sells the even flow after the match when Chastity got in. He got up and ran off, which I thought was weird. I thought the pin was weird. But overall, it was a squash match with Dave Taylor and Raven, star and 3/4.
I gave it a star and 3/4, and that was even without. I didn't judge after the match. I thought the match was okay. I mean, no real complaints that it didn't feel like a Raven match. Usually you get the classic drop toe hold onto the chair.
Match?
Dude, don't start with me on that. All right. This is the reason why this match I think exists.
Is that somehow Bam got thrown into it?
Yeah, fuck it. That's the old fuck it right there. So Bam Bam in it. Remember when Bam Bam was like fighting Goldberg, and then now he's not, and now he has nothing. He has absolutely nothing.
Hey, he's in a triangle match at Uncensored where anything can happen.
I mean, especially if Ric Flair comes down with a dress. Like I said, there was no chair, no hardcore spots. It was, like I said, it was probably one of the most vanilla matches I've seen that involved Raven. So I guess that's the reason why I couldn't put it the 2-star either.
After the match, we get a promo for, of course, this steel cage that's being created for Sunday's match.
See, I thought this promo was just to show what sparks look like.
It is a lot of sparks, but you occasionally see barbed wire. You occasionally see the the chain links, and then you see a welded WCW logo at the end.
Pretty badass. It's a very, very hellacious cell-like structure.
It really is. After this, we had our first replay of the night, and I'm calling it a replay of the night because it's Arn Anderson and Ric Flair sitting in the locker room. This is the same promo we saw on Thunder last week, where Arn's wearing the Thunder polo. Flair's talking about how he's given up on David. Arn can't believe it. Yada,
and it's like
yada,
a good 5-6 minutes.
It is a long promo, and I just fast-forwarded right through it. I couldn't believe they were showing the whole thing. I was like, oh, we're going to get like the Cliff Notes as I kept clicking the 10-second fast-forward button. Nope, saw the whole thing. After this, we get Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko. Of course, they're going to be out here prepping for the tag title match that they've got coming up on Sunday, and they're wrestling Disorderly Conduct. Thank
God, I thought Mean Mike was gone ever since Mean Mike Enos, but maybe they had another arm wrestling match in the background, and now Mean Mike is back in it. I'll just be honest. I have no idea which one is Tough Tom or Mean Mike unless someone said it, but I still appreciate they're both out there.
I don't ever know who is who until I see it on their pants, and I feel like it's not like they look all that much alike either. But they're so plain to me. They're just mullets with like facial hair. So until I see Mean or Tough on their ass, I don't pay attention to who's who.
Good call.
Commentary team spending most of this match discussing Ric Flair because why not? Benoit's going to dominate early. Dean's going to come in early and go for the Texas Cloverleaf, but Tough Tom's going to come in and break that up. That said, Benoit's eventually going to get the hot tag, flying headbutt. They're going to get the 3 count. I gave it a star and 3/4. I thought it was a pretty quick squash match to push Dean and Chris into Sunday's match.
I gave it 2 stars. I think it did exactly what the match was supposed to do. I don't think anyone came in there thinking that Disorderly Conduct was going to pull off some sort of upset, but it was supposed to, give the Horsemen, that air confidence going into the pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure Disorderly Conduct literally got a clothesline in, and that was about all the offense that Mean Mike was able to do. But once again, the whole point of this was to make the Horsemen look strong, and it did a good job of doing that.
After the match, the Horsemen are going to continue to look strong as they attacked Disorderly Conduct and kind of cleared them out of the ring. It was like a heel move here as they kind of beat the shit out of them and tossed them out of the ring. But commentary team's going to praise it, of course, because they're the faces and say, we love the aggression that they're showing as they're getting ready for their match. Malenko's then they're going to get on the microphone. they're going to call out Wyndham and Hennig and say, you know what, let's screw Uncensored on Sunday. Let's do it right here tonight. This is going to bring out Hennig and Wyndham. They're going to stand there at the entrance ramp, really slowly start to walk towards the ring. And that's gonna be a big enough distraction for disorderly conduct to run back in and get the attack on Benoit and Malenko. Of course, it's quickly squashed. Texas Cloverleaf, Crippler Crossface, and Malenko and Benoit are basically proving a point to Wyndham and Hennig that, hey, guess what? Tough Tom and me might mean nothing to us, and you guys better be ready on Sunday night.
One thing that's weird about this whole Horseman dynamic is that, and we've mentioned it a couple of times where we get it, like Malenko and Benoit are I guess, that whole aggression, type angle where like they don't, if they lose, even if it's like they got one upped by, like back in Super Brawl when they got one upped by Hennig and Wyndham, and they do show that, they show the footage like right after this of Dean and Chris just like basically being sore losers and beating the shit out of them with belts. They've been doing this for a while. Even when Benoit and Mongo were tagging together, they even if they win, they kind of, there's some shenanigans after the bell where they just kind of like lay more violence down, and everyone just kind of praises them like, oh, look at how aggressive, and these guys are on point. They're ready for Sunday. And it's like, no, this is two assholes just beating the shit out of two guys that, and once again, disorderly conduct had it coming. They tried going in there and, getting one more on, two pretty pissed off dudes in the Horsemen. So, but I mean, I think you got to call it out when you see it. Like, these guys are faces, sure. But yeah, it's that classic, they're doing heel bullshit, but look at how aggressive and, on point these guys are. These guys are jacked and ready to go for this Sunday as they're just beating the shit out of two defenseless guys.
So, while you were talking just now, you mentioned Mongo briefly, and I realized we haven't seen Mongo in a while, and I was thinking, I'm like, Mongo's not long for WCW at this point, and I was trying to see when he stopped wrestling. I went and looked. He made his final appearance on February 8th. We're done with Mongo. Mongo's gone. He doesn't come back. That's it.
I feel like he deserved more of our time. Now that I know, I feel so bad. Like, we needed more time with him.
He didn't get a good send off.
He didn't get anything. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he just hasn't been around.
Right. He returns to TNA in 2008, where he refereed a match. But basically, he retired in '99 in February, and we missed it. So
that's interesting. I wonder if that, once again, maybe that was something that happened on a Nitro, and Thunder just didn't bother mentioning it. Like, maybe they said something. But yeah, as far as we're concerned, as far as the Thunder buddies are concerned, we are not aware of any sort of. I mean, come on. I mean, when Ric Flair got retired by Shawn Michaels, I mean, he got this, big, whatever, like 10, 15, 20-minute thing at the end of Raw. As far as I'm concerned, Mongo deserved a full 3-hour Nitro just dedicated in his honor.
You would think so. That said, they're the 4 horsemen with only 3 horsemen. So unless Arn is now going to be the 4 horsemen again, I don't know. Bring
back J.J. Dillon? I don't know.
So just a little side note for everybody, because I know I was surprised by that factoid. That said, after this, we get our second replay of the night. You already alluded to it. It's the backstage Super Brawl between the tag teams at Super Brawl with Malenko and Benoit and Wyndham and Hennig. Then they show their brawl last week on Thunder, which followed, Hennig and Wyndham wrestling Vince and Horace. After this, we get our third replay of the night. It's paid for by the NWO, and now we're watching the Hogan promo from last week, the one that you praised very highly. Did you like it as much watching it the second time for 10 minutes?
You mean, did I even watch it? Then the answer was no.
After this, we get I'm going to call it a fourth replay of the night, and it's watching the sparks and the welding and the steel cage being built again.
It's completely unnecessary.
A lot of filler.
Give Barbarian and Hack 30 more seconds, right, guys?
That's what I was going to say. Thankfully, we're saved from all these filler replays with the Barbarian and Hack match. Hack's going to come out to the ring, the barbed wire, which he's going to take off before the match now, so apparently he doesn't wrestle in it. Barbarian's going to take off Hack's shirt at some point during this match. He's going to strangle him with it. I will give Hack credit in this match. He gives some great facial expressions of showing pain and surprise and agony and all that kind of stuff. He goes for a 10 count punch of his own in the corner, and between the fact that Sandman throws some awful-looking punches here and the angle of the camera, it was bad. I mean, he wasn't coming anywhere near. I could have fit 2 fists in between where his fist stopped and Barbarian's head was. And on a pre-produced show, you would think that they would have cut to the other angle or shown something else during that. They don't, so they show how bad it is. Of course,
what was worse, the 9-count punches or the sloppy-ass power bomb that followed?
It was all bad here. Jimmy Hart, of course, representing Barbarian, so he's going to get up on the apron. He's going to toss in the Singapore cane. That's going to distract the ref. Hack's going to get the cane back and help use it for the win. I gave it a star and 3/4. I actually gave it a star 3/4 plus because I feel like it's slightly better than star 3/4 because of Hack's facials, but everything else was really bad in this match.
I gave it a 1.5 stars. It's Hack rules. Why does Hart need to distract the ref? It's allowed. You can use the Singapore cane. It doesn't really matter. And even so, for a match that's Hack rules and anything goes, it wasn't very entertaining. There were sloppy spots. I'd love I don't know what you would call it. It was like a delayed theatrical jab to the throat with the cane. Like instead of like just doing like a jab where it looked like he got him in the throat, he just like poked him and then held it at his throat, and it made no sense. I didn't know what he was trying to do, and then he does his Russian leg sweep with the Singapore cane, which I know you kind of shit on before, and I'll say it's okay. I still think the finisher does need work, but I think it's a cool spot. It's not a good finisher. But yeah, 1.5 stars.
After the match, we get our paid for by the NWO package here. Oh, I lied. We actually get a Ray and Kevin Nash promo first. It's showing Ray beating Kevin Nash, and then Nash beating down Ray in the back after Ray declined the shirt and joining the NWO. Then we get our NWO promo package. This is Hogan and Nash as they're watching Flair's segment from Nitro. You made the comment it's sort of like a Mystery Science Theater here, which is a great analogy because they're basically pausing in between the promo, and while it's going on, they're commenting, making jokes. I think my favorite line is when Flair is talking about Flair has his kind of has an accent, and he's talking about the South and how and they say, when did he become Southern? Isn't he from Minneapolis? Which I thought was pretty funny. Then Flair's talking about a blonde that he got with some years ago, and they're saying, oh, maybe that's David Flair's mom, and then they said, oh, I wonder if it's Buddy Landel.
I laughed at that when they dropped the Buddy Landel. At first I was like, wait, who's Buddy Landel? Like, oh yeah, that's the Nature Boy.
Nature Boy, yeah. Then Nash is asking about some old guy comment that Flair makes about filling our shoes, and Hogan tries to make a joke about hot air. Then they discuss his cauliflower ear, which they call it the Crypt Keeper's ear. But then they decide that since Ric Flair is basically no-selling this whole David Flair NWO deal, that they need to regroup and go to Plan B. And that's kind of your segment. And I got to say, I thought it was entertaining watching them do this, and it was kind of funny, they're bullshitting. But at the end, when they're starting to give up their let's talk Plan B and all this and that, it took me out of the moment then, because it was like it seemed like we were just kind of watching some dudes, make fun of Flair, and then it ends with them giving away their secret plan on camera.
I mean, it's just like when Hogan was with that guy with the Hells Angels when they were stalking David Flair,
yeah,
like they did that on TV, and now they're basically saying like, hey, David Flair's not working out, we gotta dump the guy or figure out something to do with him. David, as far as I can see, it took me out of the element too, because I'm sitting here like, David Flair could just watch these promos, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
just like, yeah, it did. It took me out of the element at that point.
After this, we get nice tag team match here between Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell and Booker T and Rey Mysterio Jr., which I think is a lot of talent in this match. Although at the time they're probably all low to mid card people. In another year you're looking at a lot of main event stars on WCW and Buff Bagwell. So got a lot of talent here. We get a terribly produced commercial break after they basically watched them walk around the ring for 2 or 3 minutes, and then they said, oh, we need to go to commercial. Again, it's pre-produced. You guys can find when you can make your timings correct. Kyle, you made the comment about how Tanay makes a comment about how he can't think of anyone who's on bigger winning streaks than Booker T and Rey Mysterio, even though Rey Mysterio just lost his mask at the most recent pay-per-view, and Booker T literally lost last Thursday night.
I don't know. I can see what he means, because I bet you he kind of looks at it as like Ray's last maybe 2 or 3 wins are probably his biggest wins of his career.
Signature wins, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess that makes up for it. But I mean, Booker T literally lost, and we're gonna talk more about it later. And I don't know if you wanted to pepper this in with a discussion, but Booker T he lost last Thursday, but we thought not a big deal. He is the number 1 contender for the U.S. title. And yet now he's fighting for the TV title against Scott Steiner at the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, because we were just talking about that last week, and now all of a sudden we find out that Scott Steiner and Booker T are wrestling for the TV title at Uncensored. So apparently, Booker T, you lost your U.S. title opportunity? I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
I'm assuming Scott Hall got injured. I don't know what, but the U.S. title, let's look at the U.S. title since Bret Hart won it. Has been a shit show.
I believe I'm pretty sure the U.S. title, other than Goldberg's run with it, has been a shit show for the last 5 years.
Well, I feel like when DDP had the title, it was all right. I don't know. He had the title for a while. When you have good workers having a title, you can really tell that they really build the title up. When you have someone like that who has a title, and then you go from him, and then Raven won it for a day. And then lost it to Goldberg. And then Goldberg made the U.S. title seem pretty legit. But yeah, ever since he basically gave it, he had to give it up. And then who was after that? Bret Hart or Sting or some of that nature? No, Sting fought Bret Hart for the U.S. title, but Bret Hart had the U.S. title. And Bret Hart then was back and forth with having injuries, and then they just put it on fucking Piper. And then they went from Piper to then him just dropping it to Scott Hall at the very next pay-per-view. And then Scott Hall, it looks like, is potentially dropping the title because I think he's injured. We haven't seen him on TV now for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. As for the match, it's pretty good back and forth. At one point, though, Rey Mysterio is going to slip on the apron when he does a springboard into the back into the ring. This could have ended really badly. Thankfully, it doesn't. Ray's able to kind of tackle at Buff Bagwell's feet, his legs, and he kind of sells it that he tackled him. Commentary kind of calls it for what it is. We also find out during this match that at Uncensored we have a Harlem Street fight between Vincent and Stevie Ray, and if that's not enough to sell you on it, the stipulation winner gets control of the NWO Black and White.
Dude, I mean, the chips are on the table, man. Everyone's all in. Can't wait to find out who wins this match.
Phew, man. We then, of course, the ref's going to get distracted. And it was kind of funny. The ref got distracted by some commotion going on outside. It turns out it was just a fight in the crowd or something happened in the crowd. It was
even Scott Steiner left.
Yeah,
the fucking
everybody
ring.
looked away. And Booker T takes advantage, being the face tag team that he is, and calls Ray in for the no tag switch. So they switch. Then Scott and Buff Bagwell they're going to do the no tag switch at some point. We're going to get a lot of double teaming and domination of Ray for a lot of this. Booker T's eventually going to get the hot tag. Crowd's going to be into it. Ray, who was getting his ass kicked and just made that hot tag, immediately comes right back into the ring at 100%. So that was weird. Excuse me. Booker T and Booker T and Scott Steiner are going to wrestle on the outside. Then Booker T's going to hit the missile drop kick. And we get some sort of weird top rope splash from Rey Mysterio Jr.
This is what people now know as West Coast Pop. It's basically like a swan dive splash where he kind of just he puts his hands together and
it looks like he's diving into a pool or something.
Well, yeah, in the WWE, he would always do the 619 and then do what's called the West Coast Pop, which is just that splash. Right. He might do it from the springboard. He might do it from the top rope. He usually doesn't win a match with the 619. He usually then does like the little splash at the end of it. It's kind of like a combo. So yeah, I think that's the first time we've seen the West Coast Pop Splash.
That is going to win it. I gave the match 2.5 stars. I thought they told like a good face heel kind of tag team match here, but I also didn't love it. Like, I guess I thought with these 4 people in here, it could have been better, but it was above average for a Thunder pay-per-view.
Yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars. I kind of thought the same thing. It was okay. It's just didn't have a lot of fluidity. This could have been a much better match if it wasn't for the complete lack of structure that I think tag matches usually need, and I think a lot of that has to do with the legal tags. Mickey J, dude, I don't know. I can't fire Mickey J. I don't have that power. I also don't have a time machine. But holy shit, Mickey J, you are fucking everything up. This match is like the quintessential what it would look like if 4 singles wrestlers were trying to coexist in a tag match, and it got clunky at times. It was a nice way to end the match, and plus Mickey J got fucked up by Scott Steiner with a chair, so I'm all about it.
After that, we get a triangle match promo. You got Raven and Hack both talking like they're narrating a history documentary, talking about their match. It's going to show scenes of all them being hardcore, and then Bam Bam's going to make his spiel, and he's basically yelling like a normal wrestler would.
So the whole point of this triangle match, and I peppered it in my notes from here and there with the other two, with Raven's match and with Hack's match. It seems like they're selling this based on, hey, wrestling purists, you've seen these guys wrestle in the past. You guys have never, but if you've never seen them wrestle, but their whole point of it is that these guys have history with each other. They've wrestled against each other in years past. It's been really violent, which means you need to buy this pay-per-view so you can watch them wrestle on WCW's airwaves. I don't know. I found that very strange that's like really, they're really hammering home that these guys, all 3 of them, have this like history somewhere else.
Oh yeah, no, they're trying to tap dance around ECW without talking about ECW for sure. Trying to get you to buy into the history that these guys have in another time. We then get one of the weirdest promos I think I've ever seen.
But you know what? Torrie Wilson was wearing a sports bra. Right? I'm okay with it.
It is paid for by the NWO, so we get the black and white aesthetic with the old film reel, which I thought is also a weird thing. I thought it made sense when they're cutting a promo like behind the scenes, but it's weird when they're just shooting a normal like scene,
like a sketch.
Yeah, it's just weird. So you got Torrie Wilson, like you said, shooting a gun. Nash and Hogan show up at this gun range. They ask if Sam's around. So apparently Torrie Wilson is not going by Torrie Wilson at this point. Kevin Nash says, "Hey, girlfriend." Then they talk about they start making sexual innuendos to Torrie Wilson, saying, "Let's exercise one of her other skills." Hogan and Nash are like moaning and giving weird looks. Torrie just starts laughing.
What a bunch of lecherous fucking weirdos.
It's very strange. She then says she's got 3 more hours of shooting a gun before she's done, so they'll see her at dinner. Then they go to dinner. This is where Hogan's going to cut his promo on Flair, saying he's the rottenest human being in the world. Nash is going to tell Torrie to keep her hands off his meat while he goes after her spaghetti. Then they start making racist Japanese accents. I don't know what's happening. So then they start talking about a hot girl, and Torrie says, this girl is a 12. If she's a 10, this girl's a 12. She's hotter than her. And I'm like, well, I got to see who the hell they're talking about at this point. The girl then shows up, nowhere near Torrie's level of attractiveness.
The only thing I thought was, oh my God, are they introducing Stacy Keibler?
I thought the same thing. I'm like, that might be the only thing I would agree with. No, it is not.
And even then, I feel like Stacy Keibler and Torrie Wilson is like, there are some people that like chocolate and there's some people that like strawberry.
Right,
exactly. I think they're both delicious. It's what you prefer. Like gun to my head, I'm honestly going with Torrie Wilson. But at their peaks, I go with Torrie Wilson. But I mean, I'm not gonna bitch about Stacy Keibler.
Absolutely. Hogan then says something to Torrie's like, I think I told you, and he says straight up, Holmes. So now we've had, hey girlfriend. We've had racist Japanese accents. We've now heard straight up Holmes. He then says, this mystery woman says, you know what my last name is? And Hogan says, it's going to be my last name, which made me laugh. But then she said it's Mrs. Robinson, so they make all their Mrs. Robinson jokes. You can tell that this entire segment is loosely scripted at best because they're all over the board here. Then they cheers to Mrs. Robinson. That is your segment.
All right, quickly. Better actresses. Torrie and Mrs. Robinson, or Raven's mom and grandma?
Oh man, it's all awkward, man. It's all awkward. And after this, though, it's main event time. We got 16 minutes left, so okay, that's a decent amount of time to give Ric Flair and Disco Inferno. It also lets us open up the door to some shenanigans. Of course, Flair and Hogan main event this Sunday. All right, this is going to do it. Oh, nope, but first, let's do a tag team championship promo. So then it's going to cut to Malenko, Hennig, Benoit, Wyndham. They're cutting back and forth with clips. They're talking about, beating the other one. Malenko says he's got a belt that's got room for Wyndham's neck and Hennig's neck. I
feel like most belts that aren't small girl belts can fit two grown men's necks in them.
Yes. Hennig then calls them losers till the end. And then just overall, these promos were kind of weird. And Benoit and Malenko, I felt like they were very slow as they delivered their promo, which filled in time great for them and left us with what was originally 16 minutes. And by the time the match actually started, it was brought closer to, 9 minutes or so when they actually tangled. We do get our first sign of the night here, and it says Ric Flair's Space Mountain is still the ride with the longest line, David. And it was a proud 12-year-old boy that was showing that sign.
That boy has no idea what Space Mountain is. God bless him.
The early on part of the match was a lot of disco taunting, dancing, swinging for the fences for some reason. Hidez is going to lock on the figure four. Things are heating up, and that's when we're going to commercial. I got so pissed. Thunder.
So pissed. You put him in Ric Flair's own finisher, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's gonna tap. We'll be right back." Like, what?
all of this filler, and when you actually have something worthwhile, commercial break. We come back in. Flair's gonna get tossed off the top rope. He's gonna get dominated as you expect in a Ric Flair match for quite a lot. Eventually, though, he's gonna come back. He's gonna lock on the figure four. We're out of time. That's your match. I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was a fine, clean, main event. Ric Flair won. He gave the home crowd what they wanted to see. He's hot going into Sunday night. But I really thought on a go-home show for a pay-per-view where your main event attraction is in the main event here, they could have done something more with it, and they dropped the ball there.
Yeah, I agree. I also gave it 2.5 stars. I like the booking. At least we got to see one of the main eventers wrestle before the pay-per-view. I understand it's against Disco Inferno. I like the idea that they kept on stressing that this could be the final time that we ever see Ric Flair again. Because apparently, if Ric Flair loses, it's not like he has to retire. He is out. He's not on TV. He is not part of the sport anymore. So, obviously, the last time that Ric Flair wants to be on TV is on some pre-taped Thunder in Winston-Salem. So, I did like where once again. There was a storyline involving with it, but I think I would have liked it, honestly, if Ric Flair, I don't know what, and once again, yeah, at the end of the show, make the crowd go home happy. There was a part of me that would have liked it if, like, the NWO came out and cost Ric Flair a match, and then maybe Ric Flair, like, fights him off and, ends up being kind of like, send the crowd home happy still, but make it be like, oh, wow, he actually lost to Disco. Like, that's got to get in his head for this match that's coming up. But no, it was just kind of a cut and dry. And like I said, the match itself was fine. Would have been nicer to see someone a little higher on the totem pole fight Flair. Even if it was somebody like, if we're going with the NWO Wolfpack, even if, hell, I would have loved it if
Bagwell or something.
Bagwell, Scott Hall, somebody higher up on the food chain than literally the bottom of the food chain that is Disco Inferno. Because then at least it would show that, it would just kind of prove that Flair going over on someone like that it would show that Flair deserves to be the number one contender for the second time, instead of it just being, hey, Flair's the president, so he's going to put himself in matches. At least make it seem like the guy deserves to be in that, in that consideration for number one contender.
That said, that's the show. That is our.
No, it's
well,
not.
That's not true. That's not true. I take that back. We are not completely out of time. We're going to show Sparks again and weld the WCW logo, and then that's our show.
Good. Thank you.
What did you think about our go home show for Uncensored 1999?
Oh my goodness, 5 matches and a lot, and I mean a lot of promos. Which I get. It's a pre-tape show. The go-home show of a pay-per-view. So you want to make sure the TV audience knows the whole story. But once again, the problem I had was that so much of this was shown last week. So give us proper recaps of like shit that if you didn't see the most recent Nitro, or maybe you missed last week's Thunder, maybe there'll be some things that we'll go over. But shit, some of this stuff is so old that who cares? This is
some of it's so old it should be fighting in a cage match at Uncensored. Am I right?
Whoo, deep cuts over here. But yeah, I said give us proper recaps of the new shit, and then fill the rest with actual in-ring action. It's a 2-hour show with 5 matches, which I think you and I almost to the T rated exactly the same. I think I gave a 1.5 to the.
Yeah, we were pretty close this week. There wasn't really much differ.
Right, I think I gave a 1.5 on the Hack Barbarian match, and you gave it a star and a quarter, so I mean, a star and 3/4. So I mean, it's not like that much of a difference. But I don't know. Like I said, showing there were even some promos that they played twice on the same show. So like that kind of shit, that there's just no excuse for us seeing Sparks 3 times in one show.
There's not. And to your point, I always grade go home shows a little bit tougher because they're supposed to. This is your last chance, and I get it. Nitro's technically their A show, and that's what should be leading us into Uncensored. But the reality is, it's not. There's a show on Thursday night. Take advantage of it. Do something more to get that last bit of people who are like, you know what? I need to really tune in this Sunday and see what's going to happen. I mean, it's Uncensored where literally anything can happen.
Ric Flair could wear a dress, and 2 guys that are pushing 100 years old could be in the main event in a cage match.
They're pushing this cage match. They got David Flair. You've got Ric Flair in the main event in this match. You could do anything with him. You could have David show up. You could have, even David standing at the entrance ramp. You could bring out Hogan, bring out some more of the NWO. What kind of mind games is he playing? None of that takes place.
You know what's weird? I think of it this way. So we're going to have this cage match with Hogan and Flair. And this seems like this is supposed to be like almost like the rubber match. Now, I wouldn't say rubber match, but you know what I mean? Like this seems like this is going to the culmination of this feud.
Of their feud. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And yet we have loose ends with this David Flair string in the NWO. So win or lose, if Hogan wins and Flair is out, what's the point of David Flair now? Like, what's the point of Mrs. Robinson? What's the point of all of this? And then if Flair wins, the same question can be kind of asked. Like, what's the point of this story? Like, I felt like all of this Mrs. Robinson shit should have also concluded before this pay-per-view. Where, like, okay, where does this whole thing with David Flair actually go? But instead, it's going to happen probably on the Nitro after this pay-per-view. And to me, that just like that completely just puts the brakes on any momentum of a decent storyline to introduce David Flair to anything when either Flair's out of the company and out of wrestling, or Flair has all the chips, has the belt, has all control, and at that point, he got everything he needs. Who gives a fuck about David Flair? He's already pretty much said that. Like, hey, David Flair, he's a grown man. He's my son, but he's going to do whatever he wants. He's a grown man. He's responsible for his actions. So in the end, this is shitty writing.
Welcome to WCW in 1999, my friend.
And yet we're not even going to talk about 2000.
Well, we haven't got there yet. But yeah, I mean, so go home show. You have all the opportunities to sell me on it. You don't sell me on the main event because you replayed most of what happened last week. Unless you're trying to sell me on Mrs. Robinson and Torrie Wilson and some menage a trois action or something like that. And I'm not getting that vibe. Keep your hands off my meat. You know what I'm saying? And we get Hacks here tonight. Ravens here tonight. And we Bam Bam wrestled last week, so you know they're all here. Maybe we can get a little tussle in there for their triangle match. Nope, we're just going to get some promos done by them. All right. Benoit, Malenko, Henning, Wyndham, they all show up, but they don't wrestle. They don't brawl at all. They just stand and look at each other.
I always wonder the order of things where I understand that it's a double show. You know, it's basically they have one show in Winston-Salem to do two Thunders, where like I feel like when they tussled at during the first show of Thunder, I feel like even though it's live, I feel like the tape part happened before this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and it very well could have been. But that's poor planning on their part. Then they should have switched it around because you really want to heat it up right at the end, have them brawling. But they don't do that.
No, what you got was disorderly conduct getting their ass handed to themselves.
So, I mean, I could go down the list for the card. But overall, they do nothing to push it. Saturn and Jericho aren't even here to push their match. I don't know what Marilyn Manson's going to think about Saturn. We don't know if Scott Hall's wrestling now. We got Booker T and Scott Steiner. Apparently they've got that match now. But overall, all of these things happening, Stevie Ray and Vincent, we don't even get that. We get nothing. For a go-home show, we get nothing but filler fucking
And how random
promos.
is it on a taped show? And something I don't know. Look, we can all argue about how important whoever's in charge of the white and black, the B team of the NWO is.
There's no importance to that,
but still, like, instead of just being like, oh, hey, I was just told by the WCW booking committee that a pretty decent stipulation match has been just peppered into this pay-per-view.
Right.
That would be like on WCW Pro or something like that. They're like, oh, Harlem Street Fight match in 1 hour from now. Like that would be like if Sunday Night Heat was having before WrestleMania and they decided like during there they're going to book 2 more matches for the card for WrestleMania. Like there's no promotion. There's no like these are things that obviously they could have booked and they probably knew were going to be booked. And they're just going to just throw it in on a pre-taped with the commentators in some booth, just kind of, videotape voice overlaying over the not live action, obviously. I don't know. Just some of the decisions that were made as far as like booking matches and things like that. I didn't like it at all.
Nope,
like,
I didn't.
FYI, the TV title's on the line against the number one contender for the U.S. title.
Yep. No, I agree. Overall, I didn't like it. But I hope you guys liked our show this week. Again, we couldn't give you an hour. We gave you about 45 minutes. I think that's pretty damn good, all things considered.
Yeah, true.
That said, if you haven't yet subscribed, liked, all that fun stuff, go find us on your podcast listening devices. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Then you always turn to social media, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. At Thundercraps. You can tweet at us and interact with us on social media. And then you can always, of course, go to thundercraps.com for all of our previous episodes. And then go check out Uncensored 1999, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Steel Cage, possibly Ric Flair in a dress. And then watch Thunder 55, March 18th, 1999. We'll find out everything that happened at Uncensored. We'll be live. Hopefully the action will be good. For Kyle Hogan, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are Sparks, and more sparksingly out of time. See ya.